Who are the LA Kings in the spotlight for this coming season? That and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love for you to leave us a positive comment on Apple Podcasts if you're a fan of the show. And we are on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years, 20 plus years at the Fox Sports Radio Network. I'm also co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the past 18 years, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Well, we are into September, and NHL hockey, real NHL hockey, is now next month. The LA Kings season opener is October 10th in Buffalo, 38 days away. The preseason for the Kings gets going this month, September the 23rd. That's 21 days away. And the rookie faceoff in El Segundo is just 11 days away, coming up next Friday. So the hockey season is fast approaching. Unfortunately, no real Kings news to pass along from over the weekend. Hope you're enjoying your Labor Day weekend. And I was thinking for the upcoming season, who are some of the LA Kings that are in the spotlight for this coming season? Not necessarily who's the most important player or the best player, but who do we want to shine a light on and get a better look at for this season for whatever reason? So I thought we would start with, and I think maybe some people would say, well, what about the new players? That seems obvious. We don't know these guys. We want to get to know them. And it makes sense. Warren Foegele, Tanner Jeannot, Joel Edmondson. But to be honest, for me, I kind of feel like I already know what those guys are going to bring to the table. I think I know what their roles are going to be. I got a pretty good idea what numbers they're going to put up. So for me, those are not spotlight players for me. Now, there are a couple of newer Kings that I think are, and we'll start with one of them, and it's new Kings head coach, Jim Hiller. And I know he's not completely new. Obviously, he was an assistant coach for a couple seasons with the Kings. And yes, he was the interim coach last season, but this is different. He's now the full-time LA Kings head coach and a full-time NHL head coach for the first time in his career. This is a guy who started as an assistant and a head coach for 11 years at the junior and minor league level. 10 more years as an assistant coach at the NHL level. And now he's finally getting his chance to show what he can do with an NHL team. He's definitely paid his dues, but also getting a very unique opportunity because, frankly, this was not a guy that many thought was a hot coaching prospect out there. He found himself in the right place at the right time, and now he's getting his big chance. Certainly did a very respectable job in not the easiest of circumstances when the Kings decided to make a coaching change and fire Todd McClellan. Hiller came in. His job was to get the team in the playoffs. He did that, going 21-12-1 in 34 regular season games late last season. But now the spotlight is definitely on him, and the pressure is as well. And yes, the expectations of this market and this organization here in Los Angeles, it's not exactly the Toronto Maple Leafs or the Boston Bruins, but I think this is Jim Hiller's one shot. If it doesn't go well here, I think it's very unlikely he would get another chance at being an NHL head coach. Now, the good news for him is that he's taking over a team that has made the playoffs 3 years in a row. He's not taking over a team that is void of talent or in the middle of a rebuild. This is a team that is at least expected to be in contention for a playoff spot. So, in other words, he's getting a fair chance to show what he can do as an NHL head coach. Now, Jim Hiller is known as being an innovator. He is a coach that is not unwilling to try new and different things. 55 years old. He's certainly, I've mentioned, been around the block. But he's not necessarily old school, at least in his way of thinking. At least that's what we're told. by all accounts, he is more than willing to adapt and accept new ways of doing things and new ideas. Now, can he create a more effective offensive team while staying true to the Kings' defensive identity? That's going to be quite the challenge. If he can do it, then he'll certainly have shown he was worthy of being hired as the Kings head coach. Now, the players seem to like Jim Hiller. He knows most of them very well. I think the players will work hard for him. He has put together a coaching staff of his own choosing, so there's no excuses basically for Jim Hiller. Again, taking over a pretty good team. He's got the staff he wants in place, and now it's up to him. The spotlight is on him to see if he can get the Kings to a place they haven't been since winning it all back in 2014, and that is out of the first round of the playoffs. I talked about the new players on the team not really being in the spotlight because I felt like I knew what they're going to bring to the table. However, there is one new player that is in the spotlight, partially because of the nature of his position and partially because I don't really know what to expect out of him, and that is goaltender Darcy Kuemper, 12-year veteran, picked up in the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade with Washington in the offseason. And the reality is the Kings really didn't want Darcy Kuemper, but he and his $5.25 million contract for the next 3 years was the price to pay for unloading Pierre-Luc Dubois and his remaining 7 years on his contract at $8.5 million per season. Now, was Kuemper worth taking on because of that? Yes, he was worth taking on because of that. And there's still a possibility that he could work out for the Kings. Now, is he definitely the answer for this coming season? Who knows? But he's definitely going to be in the spotlight. And there are reasons to be optimistic about Darcy Kuemper. He did backstop a team to a Stanley Cup title just 3 years ago in Colorado. Now, in his previous stint in LA, he was solid. 15-10-1, 210 goals against average, and a sparkling .932 save percentage. Problem was, that was 6 years ago. And in his last 2 seasons with the Capitals, he was not good. The 34-year-old lost his starting job last season, putting up a record of 13-14-3. His goals against average was 3.31, and he had a save percentage of .890. Those numbers are definitely not going to get it done in LA if he's looking to be the number one goalie, or at least the 1A goalie for the LA Kings. Now, he should be better for the Kings, but how much better? Because of that contract, the Kings are going to give him every chance to fail. But if he can't get on track, the Kings do have David Rittich to fall back on. The situation in net, not ideal for the Kings, but for now, it's one they're going to have to live with. And that puts Darcy Kuemper in the spotlight, and likely David Rittich as well if Kuemper can't get the job done. And I think Trevor Moore is in the spotlight a bit as well. Coming off a career year, 31 goals and 57 points. Was he a one-season wonder, or is he just starting to hit his stride as an NHL player? 31 goals were 14 more than his previous career high 2 seasons ago. 57 points, 9 more than his previous career high also 2 seasons ago. And where exactly does he fit in for Jim Hiller in the lineup? I would expect him to be a top 6 forward, but we'll have to wait and see. I would also expect him to be on one of the Kings' power play units. So he's going to get his opportunities, I think, to show that last year wasn't a fluke. And I think the 29-year-old can repeat the numbers he put up last season, maybe even exceed them. But I think we'd all be happy if he at least was a 30-goal scorer again. And again, he didn't score a lot of fluky goals last year. Last season, Trevor Moore, it wasn't like he was shooting a lot. He was shooting a lot, but it wasn't like it was, deflecting off a defenseman's skate or, just fluke goals. He was scoring highly skilled goals. And to me, that was a big reason why I have a belief that it wasn't a fluke year, that this is something that he can be season in and season out. Now, he was pretty consistent throughout last season. 5 goals in the first month of the season. He finished with 5 goals in the final month of the regular season as well. On his way to leading the LA Kings in goals for the first time in his 6-year career. I think Trevor Moore has the ability. Can he, though, show the consistency? I think, obviously, he's got to do it more than one season to prove that last year wasn't a fluke, but I think Trevor Moore will be in the spotlight this season for the LA Kings. There are a couple of more players in the spotlight, including one potential young star ready to be a full-time NHL player. We'll tell you about him next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Hey, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. With a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market NFL game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. And of course, FanDuel is always there for you to bet on your favorite sports, Major League Baseball, golf, soccer, NASCAR, and of course, the upcoming NFL season. Join FanDuel, browse the latest betting odds of your favorite sports and teams on the Sportsbook app, and get in on the action. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. Talking more about which LA Kings players are going to be in the spotlight for this coming season. And I think Quinton Byfield certainly is a name we've talked about a lot in the offseason, and I think he's a pretty obvious player that is in the spotlight, not only because he appears to be on track to being the next great Kings player, but he is expected to be moving to a new position, his natural position of center from the wing. But more than that, the 22-year-old could also be taking over that spot while remaining in a top 6 role behind #1 center Anze Kopitar. Now, there's no question it's a step up in responsibility for the former 2nd overall pick in 2020. Definitely a show of faith by the organization in Quinton Byfield, and he should have confidence in himself after a year that saw him post career highs with goals, 20 up from his previous career high of 5, and a career high in points with 55 up from his previous career high of 22. So obviously, Quinton Byfield took a big leap forward last season. Now, could he take another big leap forward this season? Probably not that big. I mean, I don't see him doubling up, what he did from his previous career high again. That would put him in like the 35 goal, 90 point range. I think that's asking for a lot. Be great to see. Believe me, that would be amazing to see, but I don't see that happening for this coming season. But another step forward, eclipsing the numbers he put up last year, maybe 25 to 30 goals, maybe 50 to 60 points, I think is possible and would certainly be, I think, a realistic next step for Quinton Byfield. Now, maybe there's a fear that this move and this added responsibility might be a little bit too soon for Byfield, but I think there is something to be said for the Kings showing faith in him because of the year he had last year, and also because the Kings are kind of in a spot where they need for him to take that next step. So they're going to find out whether he can do it or not. And if it's not this year, hopefully it's the year after. But there's really only one way to find out, and that's to put him in that position, put him as the second line center, and see what he can do. Quinton Byfield definitely in the spotlight for the LA Kings this upcoming season. Now, the player I'm most looking forward to seeing in the spotlight is defenseman Brandt Clarke. He is ready to get his NHL career going, and he's given us a few glimpses here and there. And sure, you could also include guys like Alex Turcotte and Akil Thomas as far as young guys getting their chance to show what they can do. But I think, again, kind of like the guys that the Kings have added from the outside, I kind of think I know what Alex Turcotte and Akil Thomas are going to bring to the table. And frankly, I'm okay with them just getting their feet wet, adjusting to being full-time NHL players, and them going through the growing pains, but being contributors here and there. I think we're going to see some good, some bad. But again, I don't expect a lot out of those guys. Brandt Clarke, though, a little bit of a different story because he's a former 8th overall pick, had a stellar junior career. He followed that up with a very solid first pro season with the Ontario Reign. And we have seen, as I mentioned, some glimpses of Brandt Clarke. We saw him for 9 games 2 seasons ago. Last year, 16 more games at the NHL level. So he's gotten a legitimate taste of the NHL. And I think it is obviously time for Clarke to get his full-time NHL career going. The spotlight's definitely going to be on him to see where he plays. Is he going to be quarterbacking the second power play unit? Is he going to be featured in other areas, possibly on the power play? We talked about Jim Hiller not being afraid to try new things, being innovative. What could that mean? What could that role be for Brandt Clarke? Now, how much offense he can add from the blue line is certainly something that's going to be in the spotlight. The Kings could use more offense from that area. Really, Drew Doughty, the only Kings defenseman that is any kind of a contributor offensively at all for the LA Kings. Now, hopefully Jordan Spence can take a step forward and add as well. But really, Brandt Clarke is being billed as a guy who can get his points from the blue line and be an offensive factor. Defensively, hold your own, but offensively be a special creative type of a player. So again, certainly the Kings are looking for that, hoping for that, and Brandt Clarke should definitely be in the spotlight for the Kings this coming season. There is another wild card player that may or may not be in the spotlight for the Kings, and that's if he's even on the team. And you probably have figured out I'm talking about forward Arthur Kaliyev. He asked for a trade. So far, there have been no takers, or the Kings haven't gotten an offer to their liking. Are the Kings going to decide to give it another shot with Artie? Are they waiting for the right offer? I mean, look, first of all, they have to sign him. He is a restricted free agent at the moment. But if they do give it another try with Arthur Kaliyev, be interesting to see. Put him in the spotlight. Where is he going to play? How is he going to be utilized? Former second-round pick, still only 23 years old. This could be a huge, huge project for head coach Jim Hiller in getting him back on track and getting him to be a productive NHL player and using his strengths and trying to at least have him be a passable player where he has his weaknesses and his defensive game and things like that. So he's Arthur Kaliyev, really the only player right now, I think, who obviously would be in the spotlight, but we just don't know what his status is going to be at this point. Is he even going to be on the roster? And again, they still need to sign him as a restricted free agent. But as I mentioned, we're not that far away from the start of the season, so a decision needs to be made at some point, and then we can kind of go from there. But again, Arthur Kaliyev, a wild card to be a spotlight player for the LA Kings. And of course, all these players will help determine how big of the spotlight is going to be on GM Rob Blake. If all these players can have positive seasons, it's possible that the hot seat for GM Rob Blake could cool off and maybe he gets a second chance at life as the LA Kings GM. But if not, he'll likely be out of the spotlight and out of a job for the LA Kings. Up next, we're going to play Name That King with one of the most unique LA Kings of all time. That's next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it is easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. We had Tony, who's a hockey fan in England, share a note with me on social media about a former Kings player that actually blew me away. And I had to see if it was true or not. And I did a little fact checking. And in fact, it is true. So I thought it would be a fun opportunity to play Name That King, which is a little trivia thing we've done in the past. Basically, I'll tell you some facts about this player's career, and maybe you can guess by the time I get to the end who this player is. And if you have no clue who the player is, well, then you've learned something today. So if you're of a certain age, I think you should probably get this. And if not, it's certainly possible you've never even heard of this player before. So this former LA King was born September 17th, 1982. He was drafted by the Kings in the 8th round in 2004. Now, he is not the first player from his country to ever be drafted, but he is the first player from his country to ever play an NHL game. He broke into North American hockey first by playing in the ECHL and eventually joined the LA Kings ECHL affiliate, the Reading Royals, for the 2006-7 season. Now, when Kings goalie Matthew Garon was placed on injured reserve with a broken finger during the 2006-7 season, this former King was called up to be the backup for Barry Brust. Ooh, that's a name from the past I hadn't thought about in a long time. On January 13th, 2007, this former King goalie made his NHL debut coming off the bench to start the third period against the St. Louis Blues. Now, unfortunately, this former King would allow a goal, and unfortunately, that was enough to saddle him with the loss as the Kings fell to the Blues 6-5. Then on January 16th, 2007, this former Kings goalie made his first NHL start against the Atlanta Thrashers, but it didn't work out too well. Ended up getting pulled after allowing 3 goals on 9 shots. Unfortunately, his NHL career, all with the Kings, was only 4 games. Never posted a win, going 0-3. He would return to the ECHL for 3 more seasons before then returning home to play, where he is still playing today. At 41 years old, this former King is playing in the Asian Ice Hockey League. He is currently a member of the Nikko Ice Bucks, which is, like the Milwaukee Bucks, a deer. Anyway, can you name that King? The answer is Yutaka Fukufuji, the first Japanese-born player to play in the NHL, did it with the LA Kings back in 2007. He's a bit of a Kings legend because of how unique he was. I was shocked when I found out he was still playing professionally. Too bad he couldn't have gotten that one win in the NHL, but still amazing for a player like him to even make it to the NHL, coming from certainly a different place from Japan. But yeah, the first NHL player from Japan, and I'm assuming the only one to date, is former Kings netminder Yutaka Fukufuji. Of course, Jordan Spence was raised in Japan for the LA Kings, but born in Australia. I believe he has dual citizenship in Canada and Japan, does Jordan Spence. But again, it would be interesting to ask Jordan Spence if he knows who Yutaka Fukufuji is. That's going to do it for today's show for you everydayers, or right now you every other dayers. Again, only doing shows 3 days a week for the next couple of weeks, and then it'll be back to 5 days a week as the NHL season gets closer and closer. Coming up this Wednesday, still looking to get a special guest, but nothing has been finalized at this point, so can't tease that at the moment. But I can tease that we will definitely have on Friday our weekly fan feedback show. Anything you want to talk about from today's show, any players that I mentioned in the spotlight that you agree with or maybe you disagree with, or if there's another player or players or members of the organization you feel are in the spotlight for the Kings, you can send us some feedback. The email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. You can also comment if you remember Yutaka Fukufuji or not. You can stay connected with the show on social media. We are on X, Twitter, Instagram at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you, as always, for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you on Wednesday. And as always, go Kings, go.